Right, we're on. Cool. Hi guys, Joe here. I've got Kerry, who's a parent. She's got a couple of kids, just on to share a little bit about some of her story and some things that she's been through in relation to abuse while she was growing up, and that's been something that I've been focusing a little bit more on the last couple of weeks. And a few parents have shared some things with me. I'm very grateful for the ones who are coming out and sharing a little bit about their story, because this is a massive, massive problem, and it's a lot closer to home than most people realize or are willing to at least even pay attention to. So for anyone who's watching this, that's sort of what we're about. Before we dive into that, Kerry, do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to be where you are now?
Okay, so I'm Kerry Ann Swan. I live in Dubbo, born and bred. I'm a mum of three, 2 boys and a girl. My boys are now 20, 19, and my daughter's 8. I'm one of 6 children. I'm the second eldest. I'm the oldest girl. And yeah, how I got to where I am today has been a journey. But it has been a good one. I think what has gotten me through the traumas and things like that throughout my life is my mum and dad, and just having so much love and positivity around me to assure me that you can do it, and just stay strong and a day at a time, and go with the flow as much as you can. That makes sense.
Yep, awesome, cool. All right, if we could sort of dive into it, you shared with me that you went through some abuse growing up. If you could just share what you're sort of comfortable to in that regard, so that people are aware of, like I'm saying, that when this happens to kids, it happens to them 95% of the time, statistically speaking. It's probably higher than that, by people that they know. And your story is an example of that. So yeah, if you can just jump in and share what you're willing to, that'd be great.
Yeah, for sure. So when I was 5 years old, both my parents were very young when they had me. Mum was 18, Dad was 19. And so I spent a lot of time at my grandparents' place. And my nana got me into dancing and gymnastics, which I loved. And so I used to go and visit them every weekend, which was lovely. Then when I was 5 and I was at my grandparents, and my uncle, which is my mum's oldest brother, he's actually her stepbrother. So my nan was married twice, and she had 4 children to her first husband and then 4 to my pop. So the oldest son, he used to just come around to visit Nan. Anyway, I was one day there practicing my gymnastics, and I had my leotard on, and she was helping me do a backward walkover. Anyway, she went out the back to get something, and so she asked him to help me with that. So he did. So he was just supporting me, putting his hand on my back while I did that. But then he started to do some inappropriate things, touching me in the private areas. And as a child, as a 5-year-old I didn't know anything about this, the sensation that went through my body, I just went numb, and I knew what he was doing was wrong straight away, but I didn't know what to say or what to do. So I just stood there and took it. Then when my nan came back in, he, got up and he, moved away from me, and Nan didn't know at all. That type of stuff continued for a bit because he knew that we were there every weekend. And it was my nan that was pursuing him to do things with me, like not sexually, but to play with me or help me with my gymnastics and stuff like that. It then turned into, because I was scared of him then because I didn't want it to happen anymore, but I still didn't know what words to use to tell somebody. So the abuse continued into things like he would throw kisses at me and just do like sexualized expressions with his face towards me. And then he started to show me, because back in those days we didn't have phones or anything, he'd have books and he'd pull a book out of his pocket and it'd be a vagina or a penis. And so he started exposing me to body parts like that as well. That was pretty sickening too. That's, yeah.
This whole time, right?
No, also it started by touching when I was 5, and then the touching maybe stopped when I was 7, and then from 7 to 9 it turned into like the facial things and showing me things. And he would always try and get me in a room alone, which I tried to avoid because I knew what was coming when he was trying to do that. So I did start to limit the touching stuff, but yeah, the other stuff he would do across the room or wherever. Then I don't know, one day I just, I was standing out the front with Mum at home. Sorry, he drove past and Mum waved and I wouldn't wave, and Mum said, oh, why didn't you wave to Uncle Kevin? And I said, oh, because I don't like him, Mum. And she's like, what do you mean? And I just said, oh, he touches me and he shows me pictures, and so I finally told her. I think I was about 9. And the best thing my mum did, she just looked at me and she said, I believe you and I'm sorry. If there's anything more, you want to tell me. She said, but this is what we're going to do. Don't ever, be alone in a room with him. When we're at family functions, you tell him no, tell him to stay away from you. So with those skills, that the abuse stopped from there on. And I even said to him, because he'd say, oh, just come and sit next to me, Kerry Ann. And I'd be like, no. And he'd go, why not? And I'd say, because I don't want to sit next to you. Simple as that. And I'd just walk away. And he'd follow me around, and Mum would keep an eye on me. And she'd come over and she'd be like, you okay? And I'm like, no, he wants me to go sit with him. And so then Mum told him, look, Kevin, don't go near Kerry Ann. She didn't say, I know what you're doing. But, she just basically said, leave her alone. And if she says no, she says no. And, from that day, it all stopped. And I guess that's when the healing process started. But it did mess my little brain up a bit, worrying that it was always going to happen again, because you got that in the back of your head that there's still a possibility. And when I became a teenager is when it really hit home. And I realised what he was actually doing. And he was grooming me to do something else later on. So that scared me a bit. I confided in a couple of girlfriends at school, which were awesome, because coming through the puberty stage and boys, starting to like me or, wanted to go out with me, that was difficult. I have struggled with relationships a lot because of this. So my girlfriends were really, really good. They protected me, and my brothers too. I ended up telling my brothers that he was doing things to me, and so they let me, whenever he was around, they let me play with them. They basically just formed a barrier around me to make sure that I was safe.
That's good. I'm glad that they did that. I just want to sort of look at a little bit of the ways that the process sort of unfolded and how he, I get groom's probably the correct word to use over that time when it came to, he's helping you do things that seem harmless, like do your gymnastics, did he ever have like certain games that he would say, oh, let's play this game, let's go and do this, so that he could, like, as you said, he was trying to get you sort of alone. So what was his process there to try and reach that goal? this is something obviously that parents are not aware of, and this happens, and it's frequent, and it very often happens within the family environment. And yeah, it's just a good thing. It's not everyone, right? And it's definitely not everyone, but it's very, very important for parents to be aware of this. So if you could share a little bit more about his process to take those actions and achieve what he was trying to do, that would be brilliant.
Yeah, for sure. So he was very aware of his surroundings, and so when other family members are around, he wouldn't come near me. But as soon as he got the opportunity and saw me alone, he would try and lure me upstairs into a bedroom with, oh, I've got toys up here, or there's this new doll. I just want to show you this doll, or I've got lollies. He tried everything. So yeah, toys, lollies, even one stage like clothing. He had a pair of girls' underwear on him. So yeah, that was odd. And so I would go with him, but then I would realise, oh, he's going to do something bad to me. So then I'd go, no, I want to go back downstairs to Nan. And so I'd run away. But yeah, so anytime I was alone, that's when he would pounce on me. And they're just very sly. Very sly at what they're doing. They know what they're doing. And my grandparents had no idea.
That's what I'd like to look at. So what was his behaviour around your grandparents while you were there?
Oh, he'd call me, oh, isn't she beautiful? She's growing up really quick, and just all nice. He was, like the cherry on top. He would just, I don't know.
But in a way so that he would you'd never suspect it if you weren't looking for it, right?
No.
That would be the way that he'd present himself to everyone around.
100%. Yep. I still have family members to this day that don't believe me that it happened. My grandmother, she still, I think to the day she passed away, she did believe me, but she didn't want to believe me. And there was excuses. So when it finally came out, my nan's excuses were, well, he went to the war, he went to Vietnam War, which he did. He saw a lot of things that traumatized him, and she believes he learnt these characteristics and what he did, because some of this, he'd tell me stories of what he did in the war too. They were raping girls and like taking them from their mothers and things like that over in war. So I do believe that's where he formed this whatever they are. So yeah, that was her excuses as to why he was so messed up. He was an alcoholic, and he was also into heavy marijuana at the time as well. But that was because of his experience from war. So yeah, my nan was pretty naive and in denial with what. Sorry, and I forgot to mention why my mother was so accepting of what I was telling her is because I found out later too he'd done it to her. So he didn't actually physically touch her. She said there was just one instance that she remembers when he came home from war, and she was sleeping in her bed, and he jumped into bed with her, and she's like, "What are you doing? Get out of my bed." And then she screamed, and my pop heard, and my pop came in. Yeah, he got out of there real quick and denied it. He said, "No, I didn't get into the bed with her." So, and that's why that is why my mum knew straight away that, he is a predator.
Yeah. And that's another really important point for parents to be aware of, that most people that do this, I did know the stat, but I'm not 100% sure on it, so I'm not going to quote it. But it is a few people, but most people that are looking from the outside will see them, not suspect it, brush it off, or be in denial, which is because it's not a nice thing to think of anyone
No.
like this. It's not a nice thing, and you definitely don't want to be thinking this of family members. But that's where it happens the most, and it's definitely not most of them, but the ones that do it almost always are repeat offenders, and they have multiple victims. Almost always, and that's a very, very important thing to be aware of. And like,
you're spot on. So he did actually get caught eventually. He was doing it to another young girl. He exposing himself, and the girl told and he didn't go to jail, but he had to go like do day things down in Bathurst, and then he got to go home. So yeah.
Right. And that's like in Australia, the punishment is pretty much next to nothing. It tends to be a slap on the wrist and they walk away, and that's another very important thing for parents to be aware of. And the abuse that kids can go through can be pretty bloody brutal. It's going to vary on different levels, but the punishment is almost always next to nothing. And this is why trying to rely on police is the stupidest thing, because you're trying to fix the problem after it happens, and then you've got to deal with all the sort of the trauma that's got to be worked through, or the emotional abuse, and then like you said, it carries through to your relationships. You're not sure about how to handle certain situations, and it's a shit thing to have to go through. When, I mean, really, in my opinion, if more people were talking about this and aware of it and paying attention to it, that would all be prevented. And there are very simple ways to prevent this. I mean, like, I guess, the way they disguise it, it makes it very difficult for people to see. As you said, it was happening for years to you. And I know that that's just one of many situations where it happens, and it goes on for a while. But other people around just don't realise, and they don't suspect it. They're not thinking that way, because it's just not the way you sort of think of your family, right? It's definitely not the way you want to think of your family. But being aware of it is extremely important, so that you can prevent these things from happening to kids, because they're not nice things to have to carry through life. So being a little bit uncomfortable now, if you've got young kids, and like, you were 5 when it started, and most of it happens before kids are the age of 12, 3 and 5 girls before the age of 12. It happens young. And I hear so many parents thinking, when they're talking, even when it comes to talking about body parts or sexual reproduction, they don't want to start till the kids are 14. And I'm like, okay, cool. I can understand that's your choice, but do you understand the likelihood if your child's not aware of, it's her body, her rules, or their body, their rules? This is sort of my part. No one's meant to touch this. I have to give people permission if they want to do this. If you don't have a framework in mind to work with your kids from when they're extremely young, and I'm thinking like 12 months, they should be knowing, okay, cool, is it okay if I pick you up and put you in the bath? Obviously, they're going to say yes, because you're the parent, you're looking after them. But you want them to have that idea that this is my body, right? I'm giving you permission to touch me. That's fine. That I think that's just a super, super important thing. You don't have to go into a lot of details with the sex education or anything, but that idea that they're aware that it's their body, their rules. If they don't want people to touch them, they can say no, and to anyone.
Yeah.
And I think as a parent, it's one of the most empowering things you can do for your kid. If you can teach them from 12 months of age that they can tell you no if you don't want them to touch you, what are the chances that they're going to be able to say no to someone else and prevent this from happening?
Yeah.
Right? Like it just, I think it's huge, and it's something that I hope people can, take something from here. Go and have some conversations with your kids if you're watching this and you've got young ones, and the people that are watching this will have young kids. So have the conversation. It is important for your health as a parent, because that's a shit thing to go through. If you find out that has happened to your child, but more importantly for your kids' health and how they're sort of growing up, because it's just an unnecessary weight that people have to deal with. And yeah, so
Totally agree, Joe. Totally agree. To start at a young age, simple. That's your vagina, that's your penis. Leave it at that. But they're things that nobody else can touch but you. And if somebody does, you need to come and tell mum or dad. And not to be afraid, because honestly, the first feeling and emotion that runs through your body when somebody is doing something to you that is not right is you freeze. And you're just scared. And so I think that fear is what holds a lot of people back from not being able to voice what has happened to them. So if you can keep that line open with your children, you're going to have a better outcome.
For sure, 100%. You probably touched on it there, but I'd like if you could just expand on it a little bit more, because it started when you were 5 and you didn't say anything until you're 9, and it's a fear thing, right? I assume, and those things probably weren't being said to you when you were growing up, like this is yours, no one's meant to touch this, so I don't know how to say this so that it doesn't sound bad, but why? So if it started at 5 and you didn't say anything until 9, I'm just curious as to what's the fear that you're going through those age groups where you're even because you said you feel like it's not okay. So why didn't you feel comfortable enough, or didn't you get to a point where you could say anything until you were 9? That space, because a lot of kids are going to go through this.
Yeah. I think because of the confusion. As a child, I didn't know what he was doing. So meaning therefore I didn't have the words and the communication skills to say that's, at a 5-year-old. I didn't know, or him rubbing my vagina, I didn't know what that was. So I didn't know how to explain it. And as I got older, I think that's when I found the words and how to communicate it properly, and knowing that it's sexual abuse, that what he's doing to me. Because at a 5-year-old, I didn't know what he was doing. So therefore, I guess that's why I didn't speak up, until I was 9, having the skills to communicate it properly. And also, you go in that fight or flight mode. And so therefore, when it had happened and I just wanted to stop, and then I'd go home and I would forget about it, because I don't want to remember it. I don't want to, you know what I mean? So I just keep pushing it back. And that was the best way I dealt with it for a long time. But then as coming into your changing as a girl, I think that's when it hit that I've got to tell mum, it's not good. And I obviously felt, because I was worried too I was going to get in trouble. I thought this is my fault. I'm the one running around in leotard. I'm the little attractive girl that he obviously likes. And that's why he's doing this to me. I thought it was my fault why he was doing it. And your little mind is trying to work out what's going on. How to does that. Oh, very. Very overwhelming. And it did take a lot of courage and strength to tell my mum. But as soon as sorry.
No, you're right. Keep going.
I was just going to say, as soon as I started telling her, and I could see on her face that she believed me and she was listening to me, I thought, okay, I'm safe now. And I can tell mum exactly what's happening. If she did take the other side and was like, what? He wouldn't do that. I would have shut down, and I don't know what would have happened.
So that would be another point. If your children come to you and say something like this, often they can do it and they'll test the waters with something mild. They won't go into a lot of detail to start with. But you have to create a safe space for them to share. If they don't feel safe, they'll shut down, and you won't get the story out. And then maybe when they're 20, 30, 40 years old and haven't had a successful relationship because they're reliving this trauma every single time they go into a relationship, maybe they'll start finding a way to deal with it. I just think that's a whole lot of wasted time and completely unnecessary pain to go through. So if we can prevent it, that would be the idea. What would be from all that, and what would be like the top lessons that you've taken from that and things that you're sort of hoping to implement moving forward so that obviously those things don't happen to your kids or any other kids that you're involved with later on, so that you can, stop the cycle?
Yeah. So I think being aware of your children's emotions, if they change in behaviour, if any slight change that you can see within them when they are around a certain person. Example, if your child says they don't feel comfortable with going with auntie or uncle, nan or pop, whoever, as soon as that child says, no, I don't feel comfortable, if they don't have the capacity to use those words, or they're acting up, really listen. And like, my problem with this experience is I went into overdrive when I had my children. I became very protective. Every little thing, sometimes I would question if, someone touched them on the bottom a certain way, but like it wasn't in a sexualized way. Even that would trigger me. And I'd be like, no, don't touch them there. That's their private. I was probably oversensitive to that because of what had happened to me. But the weird thing, I grew up thinking that this only happened to girls. So when I had my two boys, I thought, I'm safe. My boys this stuff doesn't happen. When I realized that this happens to, I think that broke me more. Because then I felt I can't protect my children at all. It even happens to men. Like, what the? That just, so my way around that was just, I did teach my boys about penises, vaginas, no one's allowed to touch you there, that type of stuff when they were young. And just, you got to listen to your kids, listen to their body language, listen to their voice. It is so important. If your child wants to tell you something, listen, because that's probably the only main suggestion I can give for us to try and battle these horrible people.
Yeah, cool. And I guess just in closing, for your kids and them growing up and moving into sort of their life, what would be your biggest hope for them in their life? What do you want them to sort of grow into? What do you want their experience to be? More positive.
I want them to be happy, like everybody. You want your children just to be happy in themselves. I also have tried to teach my children to use your voice. If you are not comfortable with something, or you and you're allowed to have your opinion, but you still need to respect others' opinions as well. But to you see something wrong happening, please say or do something about it. Don't be a bystander. That's the only way, or that's something important for me that I hope that I have given to my children, that they can stand up for others and also stand up for themselves, because I think that's important. Because the more, what I didn't like either with the coverage of pedophiles is why. They're the ones doing the wrong thing. Why am I the one that needs to sit in the corner and not say nothing? That's what frustrated me more. And if everybody were against them, like we should be, and not covering them up, even the system covers them up, it just, that makes my mind boggle. And when the other person who's the victim suffers for their whole life, it's just not right. And the more we talk about it, the pedophiles will stop doing what they're doing for sure, because this is it. They will not do it if you are upfront and honest about it, and just have your boundaries set. And
they're not the strongest characters in the world. Like, they're picking the most vulnerable people on the planet to sort of target. So you don't even need a big light to be shone on them. It just needs to be something. If they'll operate in the dark all they want, but you put a little bit of a light on them, and they'll scatter very quickly. And hopefully this is doing that in some way, shape, or form. But we'll continue. And so I'll leave it there. I appreciate your time. I've probably gone about 10 minutes longer than what I was going
Sorry.
for. So, no, that was my bad. But I enjoyed your story. I think what you're sharing was hopefully really, really invaluable to a lot of people. Get this out to everyone. And I appreciate that enormously. I know it's not the easiest thing to share. So thank you for doing that.
And, thank you for giving me the space to do this, and for doing what you're doing. That's the only way we can move forward as society against these predators. Is not to be ashamed of your stories, and help and love each other.
Awesome. Outstanding. All right, Kerry, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for jumping on and doing this. If you guys have got any questions, drop them in the comments. I'll get this out to you. If I'm emailing it to you, whatever, send them back through, and we'll go from there. Okay. All right. We'll leave it there.
Thanks,
See you, Kerry.
Cheers. See ya.
Bye. See you guys.
Bye.